We are at the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride in London. It's the annual ride for Men's Health for charity. It's all a bit retro, lots of tweed, lots of moustaches, lots of retro bikes, like these two, which is what we are here to test. It's the Ducati Scrambler Cafe Racer and the Triumph Street Cup. That's the Ducati Scrambler Cafe Racer, that's the Triumph Street Cup. So two kind of very different takes on the same concept, a cafe racer. This is the 900cc Bonneville engine. It's basically the street twin given the cafe racer treatment, and this is the Scrambler given cafe racer treatment. Visordown has been to one of the coolest events in motorcycling, testing two of the coolest bikes of the year. The bikes are the Triumph Street Cup and Ducati Scrambler Cafe Racer. Two machines so obviously competing for the same customers that this test was inevitable. They are the Cafe Racer versions of the Triumph Street Twin and Ducati Scrambler respectively. The event is the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride in London, where everywhere is tweed, moustaches and bow ties, and the motorcycles ridden are a mix of genuine customised classics and modern models emulating the same style, like the two we've turned up on. About 90,000 motorcyclists took part in Distinguished Gentleman Rides in major cities across the world on September 24th, raising over £3 million for men's health issues. That it captures the imagination of so many shows what an important force in motorcycling the so-called new wave custom scene has become. It's why we have a whole market of new scramblers, bobbers and cafe racers like these two, so where better to test them? Of course we tested them out of town too. Here's what we found. Engine. Immediately on turning the throttles, these two bikes reveal themselves as having taken entirely different approaches to the same problem. You just have to look at the numbers to see why. The Scrambler Cafe Racer makes 49 pounds-foot at 5,750 RPM and 73 horsepower at 8,250, giving it a strong mid-range followed by a stronger top end. Exactly the characteristics you expect from a modern 803cc V-twin. The Triumph Street Cup, on the other hand, makes 59 pounds-foot at 3,230 RPM and 55 horsepower at 5,900. No, I haven't got those figures the wrong way round. It makes a very unmodern-like more pounds-feet than horses. There's a satisfying dollop of torque at around 3,000 RPM, delivering stronger and more addictive acceleration than I had expected from Triumph's high torque 900cc parallel twin. That's what they call it, the high torque version. But it doesn't have much more to give over 5,000 RPM, and the red line is at 6,500. Despite Triumph's greater claimed peak torque, the Ducati feels much more lively from the off, with a more aggressive initial throttle response. Switching from one bike to the other takes a bit of mental recalibration to tame the Ducati's comparative enthusiasm to get going. So let's hear how they sound. And now let's try the Ducati. Don't sound as good as that, do they? There we are. Handling. The bikes have little more in common here, and again the reasons are apparent on paper. Unlike most manufacturers, Triumph still doggedly sticks with dry weight figures, and when that still gives the Street Cup a claimed mass of 200 kilograms, we can kind of understand why. How much does it weigh wet? The Scrambler Cafe Racer is acclaimed at 188 kilograms wet and 172 dry, so nearly 30 kilograms lighter. The Street Cup feels like a lump compared to the Ducati, and its 18-inch front wheel seems to offer just slightly greater resistance to turning than the Scrambler Cafe Racer's 17-inch. The Triumph's tyres, Pirelli Phantom Sports comps, also felt a little more inclined to wander over road surface irregularities than the Ducati's Pirelli Diablo Rosso 2s. The Triumph still handles well, but the Ducati feels more agile with easier low-speed manoeuvrability, making it probably better suited to newer riders. On both bikes, the riding position is upright, the comfy side of sporty, but on the Ducati, you sit closer to the bars, more over them, a better place for tackling manoeuvres like U-turns. On the Triumph, the bars are further away, making the bike feel longer, although its wheelbase is actually 1mm shorter at 1,435mm. Suspension. And this may be key to the Street Cup's retention of comparatively good handling despite its big weight disadvantage. It's better suspended than the Ducati. The Scrambler Cafe Racer feels bouncy, scrambler-ish. With its more enthusiastic throttle response, it feels more seesaw-like in traffic. The Street Cup feels more composed. It's a more solid platform while offering just as much comfort as the Ducati. Both bikes have KYB suspension at either end, preload adjustable at the rear and non-adjustable at the front. The Triumph has twin shocks and a right way up fork, while the Ducati goes for a monoshock and an upside down fork. Brakes. Both bikes have a single front disc, why not two, offering less than colossal stopping force. The Ducati should be stronger. It's the biggest by 20mm at 330mm and has a radial mounted monoblock Brembo 4-piston caliper compared to the Street Cup's 2-piston Nissin. But the Scrambler Cafe Racer's front brake isn't stronger. There's good initial bite, but it doesn't seem to progress quickly enough as you squeeze further, so you feel the need for more and have to squeeze harder still for it when something unexpected happens. The Street Cup is more predictable. Squeeze it and it slows you down. Squeeze it more and it slows you down more, offering stopping force in proportion to the force you apply. You know, like brakes are supposed to. Maybe the Scrambler Cafe Racer we rode needed bleeding. I don't recall having the same complaint about other variants of the Ducati Scrambler. Equipment. The Scrambler Cafe Racer's dash has a rev counter, trip meters, low fuel warning light, and hang on a minute, no, that's it, apart from the obligatory speedometer and odometer, of course. There's no fuel gauge, let alone a fuel consumption meter. The Triumph has a fuel gauge, fuel consumption meter, range till empty, and its analog clocks with chrome surround are nicer to look at than the Ducati's single LED one. The Triumph also has traction control, while the Ducati doesn't. Both, of course, have ABS, and they both also get a very handy, if not very traditional, USB charging socket under the seat. They both get essential Cafe Racer features, including peeling seat covers and lower bars than the models from which they are derived, the Ducatis being clip-ons, while the Triumphs are swallowtail type bars. The Triumph has a fly screen, offering a small degree of wind deflection at speed, while the Scrambler Cafe Racer just gets a plastic cover around the headlight unit and the back of the clock. So the Street Cup wins in the equipment department. We like the agility and ease of use of the Ducati and the proper traditional feel and styling of the Triumph. We don't like. Have you seen the price of the Ducati? It's £9,395 compared to £8,800 for the Triumph. We took a not very scientific random sample of opinions on the two bikes at the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, and someone pointed out that in performance terms, the Scrambler Cafe Racer is probably not a world away from the humble Suzuki SV650, which can be picked up for a bit over £5,000. So, okay, buyers of the Ducati may not be interested in the Suzuki because they want Cafe Racer styling, but £4,000 is a big premium to be charged for that privilege. It's £1,845 more than the base model Scrambler Icon. Of course, you don't get twin stacked Termignoni exhaust with the Icon, but do they actually suit the Scrambler Cafe Racer? We've found the styling of the Ducati divided opinion too.
I was going to ask your opinion actually on the two bikes we're testing here. What do you think? The trouble is you're a Triumph ambassador, aren't you? So one of them's a Triumph, so but I'll ask you anyway. It's I'll take you over to them if you like. I was just going to ask your opinion on which looks best. It's the Triumph Street Cup, which is the Street Twin but the Cafe Racer version. Where are they? And the, here they are. So it's the Triumph Street Cup and the Ducati Scrambler Cafe Racer. Which one do you think pulls off the look?
That Ducati's really lovely.
It's alright. Yeah, it is nice, yeah. Doesn't look like a Cafe Racer though.
You're going to think that I'm saying this because I'm trying.
Because you're a Triumph ambassador, yeah.
But even if I wasn't, because to be honest, I've ridden Ducatis for years as well.
Oh right.
Since 2007, I've always had a Ducati.
Oh really?
For 10 years. Well, I had this 2R and all that like back in the day. The problem is, What's the real top end Ducati? The really
Panigale?
expensive one? Yeah.
Or
No.
Superleggera?
The one that looks really good.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Diavol, yeah.
So what they're doing, this is purely with a design head on, not with a Triumph head on whatsoever.
Okay,
They're making it look really heavy and beefy and Diavol and meaty down there.
right.
And then they're giving it a big old beefy kind of Diavol style back. But then they're trying to make the front end look like a Scrambler.
Yeah.
It's half of one and half of another.
Yeah, what somebody else said, it sort of doesn't look like either. It looks like neither a Scrambler nor a Cafe Racer.
And that's it's nice, but it doesn't know what it is.
That manages the traditional
Well,
look
that-
more, doesn't it? You know what you're looking at with that. You're looking at like a Cafe Racer.
It's quite like, I like the styling of this, it feels a bit like 80s. Now remember the old the Honda Super Dream?
Yeah.
When it had a kind of similar little frame and similar looking wheels.
Right.
And that to me is a better looking overall bike. That's half of one bike and half of another.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
If I'm really honest.
It's a bit too plasticky.
And these are like really crap.
Others loved it, to be fair, but no one expressed disapproval for the Triumph styling. Personally, I don't like the Street Cup's plastic tail light unit. It just doesn't go with the rest of the bike, as if the designers had given up by the time they got round to it. And it would benefit from spoked wheels. The Scrambler Cafe Racer doesn't have these either, but it doesn't seem to be aiming for quite the same degree of tradition in its look. It's more tradition meets future, so it gets away with it better. Verdict. And that is the problem for the Scrambler Cafe Racer. It's not as traditional. Looking around the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, the Triumph just meets the brief better. It might seem perverse to penalise the Scrambler Cafe Racer for not being technically all that much better than a humble SV650, while not accusing the Street Cup of a similar crime. But the Triumph achieves something else besides that. It's more traditional to ride, with its wrong way round torque and power figures. It's more traditional to look at, with its fake cooling fins, twin shocks and dial clocks. If you want a new rider-friendly, reasonably powerful V-twin that's a Cafe Racer by name and a modern interpretation of one by style, then you'll get on really well with the Ducati. It's a great town bike, for example. But if you want a bike that actually looks and feels like a traditional Cafe Racer, then save yourself 600 quid and get the Triumph.